everybody, trigger warning for today's video because we're going to be talking about some really not very nice themes, and I don't want anyone to be uncomfortable or upset, so just anything that might trigger you could be in today's video, so please click off if you're not ready. Today we're going to be having a little conversation to begin with in the first half of the video about the I'm Alex situation, because it's something I've been sitting on for a while. And I figured it's been a little bit of time to come and talk about it myself again and just give a little bit of an update on my thoughts towards the situation and the aftermath especially. So I thought, I've got so many thoughts, so many feelings running through my head about today's video that I'm going to stumble over my words and it may be a little bit wishy-washy, a little bit messy. Bear with me. I'll try and edit it up as much as I can, but I haven't scripted this at all. I've got some bullet points in front of me, but that's it. So it's going to be a little bit hard. But first of all, the I'm Alex and Alice situation. I say situation in a really light term. It wasn't a situation. It was a case of Alex abusing his girlfriend at the time. Alice, you haven't seen anything on it. I'll link my video on it. I'll link Alice's statement again, and just go and have a look at it, because as we all know, I'm Alex was one of the biggest commentators in the UK scene, and he turned out to be an absolute piece of trash, an absolute a-hole, an absolute scum of society, literally. So all that happened, he got outed for being abusive in pretty much like every way possible. And she came public about it, which I and loads of people fully supported. But the backlash that she got in really indirect ways made me very, very greatly uncomfortable. For example, the focus that came from Alice and some of the mistakes she had made, how as soon as a woman comes online to talk about their abuse, people will nitpick stuff that isn't inherently important to the situation to deflect blame onto her. And not only that, but the reaction she got from many other commentary YouTubers when it came to making videos on her. Now, I don't have a problem with people making videos on Alex. I don't have a problem with people talking about it at all. I spoke about it, and I think it's something that can actually be beneficial. I know there is an argument that actually talking about it can be seen as quite leechy, quite exploitative, and I guess there is always an argument for that, but that's commentary in general. What I would say is that it can be done in a really, really good way. It can be good to bring attention to what happened. It can be good to talk about what happened, to share stories about what happened, to share stories about your own experiences, to really just get talking about domestic abuse, because it's really something that I genuinely don't think gets spoken about enough. But what I really didn't like is the commentary YouTubers that came online to basically laugh about the situation, do the whole I told you so, I always knew Alex was a terrible person, and really belittle the actual severity of the situation and not focus on Alice's actual mental being. Alice came forward and actually said that there were some people that leaked DMs between her and them in order to kind of get clout and using their videos, which is disgusting, and like it really puts me off commentators and just YouTubers in general. And like maybe I sound like a fucking pick me, but genuinely, like, this is what people are like in the scene. It's very clout chasey, it's very leechy, very like you're for your own. You're not looking out for any other people. And that's what I hate about the internet. Because Alice came forward with this horrific, like, information about Alex, and people are like, yeah, like, this is my time to fucking shine. This is my time to laugh about it. It's like Keemstar's whole ultimate review thing he has going on in his videos when he discusses domestic issues. Of course, she's going to probably feel a little bit better because she's got it out there and people know what a scumbag he is, but at the same time, it's still rough to talk about stuff online and have people dismiss it for whatever reason, or even just focus on the wrong things. And every time a woman comes online and they talk about their abuse, I always feel this sense of anxiety. I almost feel repulsed by the internet. I have a very, like, love-hate relationship with online, because part of me is like, yeah, I love being able to come online and talk about stuff, but when you witness the way that people who are abused by partners or by anybody is treated online, or like how people just treat it like this big drama, like pick a side, like there is no side. It was objective abuse and Alice was abused, and if you're picking a side, then you maybe need to be put in therapy. And like every time this has happened, for my own reasons, I've sat back and thought, like, as someone who has been through like actual abuse, it's a really just uncomfortable thing to watch, because you start to think like, damn, this is how people treat you. This is how people treat abuse stories. They think it's this big, fun, game and like we can get loads of views from it and we can talk about it, as if like it doesn't really matter what happened to the person. It's just about getting your like, I always knew this person was terrible, I always had a gut feeling that Alex was terrible. Like, that's not the point. So yeah, like there's other ways that you could show your support, and it's kind of grim. So I kind of went through this like little bit of time when all this was happening and mentally was like all over the place, as I'm sure a lot of other domestic abuse victims are, because you're just like, what a weird, horrible world we live in when like things can be taken either not seriously or you can be discredited. And I thought today I would sit down for the first time in ever and talk about my experiences and basically try and get this out there for people who are going through bad or toxic or pretty much abusive relationships, and try and help them by just sharing a story. And I know a lot of people are like, not everything has to be online, and I respect that if that's for you. But for me, I truly believe that if I had had somebody coming online to talk about abuse and what abuse is when I was going through some really horrific stuff, and there was more education on what actually is abuse, then I wouldn't have been in an abusive relationship for so long. So even if this reaches 100 people, 200 people, 1,000 people, you know, that is okay for me, because I just want to talk to people about my story to maybe encourage other people to come forward as well, because I think what Alice did was really brave, talking about her abuse. Like, I think especially with Alex being such a big creator. And yeah, I just thought if this can help anybody, that's great. I also will link some like support links down below as well, because yeah, it's something, if I'm honest, this is just something I'm really passionate about. It's something that I've wanted to do in a really long time, because a lot of themes come through in many of my videos where I talk about abuse, where I feel as if it would be nice for me to have it would be good for me to have one long video where I talk about my experiences and almost like why I talk about some of the things I talk about, why I am the way that I am with some things, just to give you guys, I guess, who care, like an insight as to just, yeah, me, I guess. It sounds really like narcissistic, but it's really helpful for me, I think, to get out my experiences online, even if I don't get to name and shame. But if this helps anybody, it would be great. So yeah, let's talk about some rough shit. I'm going to start off the video by basically saying that I was in a relationship for 2 years, and it was really, really horrific. I didn't realize how terrible it was until I left, and that's the case for many, many people. Many people sit in abusive relationships and they're like, yeah, this is terrible, I hate it, but like, I want the relationship. And then they leave and they're like, holy shit, I was actually treated like I was like abused. And when I broke up with my ex-boyfriend, I stayed friends with him for quite a couple of months, until I spoke to people, until I listened around, until I got involved in conversations about abuse, where I started to be like, oh, okay, that wasn't normal at all. Like that wasn't normal. And for me, the big red flag that shone greatly to me when I exited this relationship is I started to realize that it wasn't just emotional abuse, which I knew was happening throughout, but there were some darker things going on. And I just want to cover them, because I think you guys, I have a lot of young women who follow me, and yeah, I just think some shit needs to be spoke about, even if it is uncomfortable, even if some of you don't care. If you don't care, just click off. So in this relationship, I'm trying to just say it because it makes me just feel uncomfortable. I was like abused in every way possible. I was screamed at, I was called names, I had stuff thrown around me, I had my belongings broke, I had things broke around me, I had him slam his head over and over again against walls until like I wouldn't like be upset about what I was upset about. I had him talk to other girls in front of me, ask for girls' social medias in front of me, flirt with people in front of me, hide girls' nudes that he had got from other girls on his phone, and then get really upset when I would find them and basically blame it all on me for going through his phone. That whole chestnut. I was gaslit, which I know is a phrase that is so, like, it's used everywhere. But until you've genuinely been a victim of actual gaslighting, you will you just will never understand how it makes you just, you end up in positions where you're like, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to I don't know what to do, because you go so like in 360 turns in your head. You just don't know what like is happening. And like, these are all terrible things. Like, don't get me wrong. These are all, bad things to go through. But some of the things that I realized after that were really, really horrific were, I guess, the more sexual abuse side of things, which I can't believe I'm talking about this online, because like for a number of reasons, but number one, because it's so private to me, but it's also something that I think needs more attention, because like I didn't even realize what was going on at the time. But basically throughout my relationship, it was a very, very distant relationship in terms of emotional connection. Me and him would never, ever talk properly. I'm a very emotional person. I love conversations. I love quality time, and he was not at all. So he would stay up on his computer until 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, and I would see it as together alone time, but I would just be sat in bed, like bored out my mind and wishing deep inside we could spend more time together, knowing there was no point in asking, because I would be screamed at or called a name, or he would start an argument and try and throw me out onto the fucking street. So he would stay basically on call to his friends until early hours of the morning, and then this happened very, very regularly. I don't want to say every night, because that wouldn't be true, but many times throughout the relationship, he would climb into bed at the early hours of the morning after I'd been asleep and have sex with me. Like, and this happened many times. And I think what made it bad at the time is that I had nothing keeping us together but like intimacy. I didn't, like, there was no point being in that relationship. He didn't like me. He didn't respect me. He didn't treat me well. So in my head, I always used as a token to kind of keep him wanting me. So at the time, I always saw it as like not something I wanted, but something that was, I guess, a commodity to our relationship. So I more allowed it. But this would happen so often. And I don't want to get too graphic. I don't want to do that. But it was like a very uncomfortable experience every single time, because I was not aware of it until it would happen. And, I don't even know if I'm going to release this video. Yeah, it was... I just want people to know, just before I even continue to the rest of the stuff, that behavior is really not normal. Having sex with someone who's asleep is not normal as it is, but having sex with somebody who is asleep that you are horrible to all day is even weirder. Because that was the thing for me. It was like he was nasty to me all the time. We had no relationship that was... no part of our relationship was good or wholesome or lovely or loving. So to me, it really just always felt like I am literally just a tool for him to get off. And if you've been through something like that, it's really demoralizing, really dehumanizing. You see yourself differently, and it knocks your confidence, and you start to believe that that is the only thing that you are good for in that relationship. And I always put that down at the time to lack of communication, because I've never really gone out of my way to be like, no, don't do that, because like I just didn't do that, and that's on me. But what I would say is there were other times that were like inherently weirder, more and more like inappropriate, and more like concerning. So there was one time where we had been broken up for quite a long time, and every time we would, because we broke up a lot because he would leave me, and he knew that I would go back to him no matter what, so he would keep me guessing for quite a long time and then click his fingers and I'd be back. And there was this one time where we had done that, but I was hesitant to get back together, but he begged me and he told me he was going to change, everything's going to get better, I won't scream at you, I won't call you names, I won't throw things at you, I won't throw you to the ground. All the stuff you hear when you're in a toxic relationship, I was told that's not going to happen. I promise, I love you so much, I realized the mistakes I made, all that jazz. And we got back together. I basically said, look, I do want to be with you, but I think it should be something that we don't engage in for a long time, just so I know you're serious about me. I stayed the night at his, the night I had spoke to him about that, and he initiated things with me, to which I had never really done this before, because it's something that I'm bad at. and have been really bad at in my past is just saying no to stuff that I don't want to do. And I was like no, like I started off joking, like I don't want to do that. Like we spoke about this, that kind of thing, and he was trying to touch me basically, and I was not interested, nor did I want to do that with him, more because just emotional reasons. And I was trying to really work on like connecting with emotions, because that's a lot of the time I believe how it should be. And he just would not listen to me saying no. And it took me having to rip my hands out of his hands when he was trying to go down on me, and being like, how many times do you want me to say no to you? Until he then turned around to me and said, I thought you were joking when you were saying no. I thought you were just like teasing me and like having a laugh. And then I was like, well, yeah, I guess maybe I shouldn't have smiled the first time I said no. Like I at the time, and even now, it upsets me that like I now realize what a horrible person he was. But it wasn't something that greatly upset me purely because he made me feel like I should have been more like firm with him, and like maybe I don't really know. I don't know how these things work, but it felt like I wasn't firm enough, and I should have been like no, please don't do that to me. Like I thought like no was enough of a sentence, and maybe my demeanor wasn't like telling. It was just a really big brain fuck for me, and it still is to this day. And then the final thing that I can think of in terms of the like abuse that happened was shortly after my grandmother had passed away. I was having like a really, really rough time, and there was again another night where he had been playing games, and I woke up to him putting his in my mouth like forcefully, and this was what really did upset me, because I don't know. It's a really strange and like, I don't know the word, like a really like brain fuck of an experience. And I remember just being like, what is happening? And something I've had to tell myself over and over again about that situation specifically is that if that had been a friend that I was sharing a bed with, that constitutes as right. But because it's my boyfriend at the time, you know, that's not him. He wouldn't do that. Like he's just horny and he's just doing what boyfriends do. And it's really easy for you to fall into that like mindset of it's, you know, this is just my boyfriend and like it's not that bad, it's not that deep. But what makes this situation and like all these examples, sorry, I knew this was going to happen. I should not have done my makeup. What makes these situations horrifically worse is that he knew that 2 years prior, when I first came to university, and I've spoke about this before, but I've never fully talked about what happened. I was like assaulted by a stranger who I had actually been with my friend when we got back from the pub, and we had invited him into the flat, which was stupid behavior. It was stupid and dumb. And we invited him into our flat to just chill, because that's what you do when you're in first year and stupid as hell. He was a student who lived there. I didn't know him, but I knew he lived in the student accommodation because you have to have a key to get into the student accommodation. He was sat outside our block. I think he was smoking a cigarette, and we invited him in. And my friend at the time left me in the room with him, and I passed out, and I woke up with him putting a condom on. And I have like, that was the most experience of my entire university time. And it took me, I mean, I'm not, you know, I haven't processed it now. I'm not over it now at all. But it took me ages to even realize like how messed up that was, because I was still then was like, I should never have invited this person into my flat. It's a hard experience when you have been said that it's impossible for you to not blame yourself. It's so difficult, and I do it all the time. I'm still working through it now, but it's doing videos like this where I can sit down and say it. Like, I know full well that specific experience wasn't on me. Yes, I may have been silly for letting him in the flat, but did that mean that he then had to do that? No, it didn't. And at this point, when this happened, me and my boyfriend were really not going through a good time at the time. And yeah, it didn't really go down very well with him, and that's something that I just don't really want to talk about or feel comfortable talking about. But it was not a very pretty aftermath, and yeah, that's that bit. But because then after, when we were better and we were in a relationship again and things were fine, it meant that for these like weird experiences to keep happening with him, it was like, or I always almost felt like, do you even see me? Do you see the things I've spoke to you about? Do you understand what I've been through and how you doing that can make me feel disgusting? And it was also combined with the fact that every time there was some form of like weird, hey, come on then. Every time there was like some weird experience, he was the worst person to be around afterwards. I mean, he was terrible enough as it is when it comes to, you can't go on the desk, baby, because I'm filming. I love him so much. You're going to have to go down, baby. Even when stuff was happening that was consensual, the way I was treated afterwards was horrific. He wouldn't cuddle me. He didn't want to be around me. And his excuse was that he had post-nut clarity every time that we did stuff together. Or if it wasn't post-nut clarity, it was that he was too hot and sweaty to want to cuddle me. Which gave me, you know, I look back and I'm like, Katie, there were some red flags there. There were some red flags. And I try not to use those red flags as a reason to discredit myself at all and think, well, you should have known, because you don't listen to red flags when you're in a relationship. And all this is bad enough. And I'm not saying that he's trying to get on me. I'm not saying that like I shouldn't be upset about those things alone, but it was these experiences combined with the physical abuse and the verbal abuse that I experienced that was making it. Are you okay? So as I was saying, it's not just the like stuff alone that made it like bad. It was the combination of how I was treated outside of the relationship. There were physical times where like I was like physically hurt. I was thrown to the ground. I had a kettle of boiling water thrown down my front. And although inherently I don't or didn't find this guy like threatening or like intimidating in day-to-day life, the anger that like would come from this person is something that like still affects me now. I have like nightmares periodically. They come and they go. I have ways I react now to my partner currently, and they affect you. Like these like being abused is something that will just affect you in every sense of your life, and you don't really realize it until after, and it's such a bigger thing than people even can comprehend. And it takes me back to the whole I'm Alex situation and how people treat it online, and they don't see the full depth and the full picture of how it actually messes up your entire life for a really, really long time. And I think there's a lot of shame around people coming online and talking about things because you're seen as a shit stirrer, you're seen as someone who's creating drama, you're seen as someone who's victimizing themselves. And I think it's ridiculous because, I mean, the way I've seen it is if you don't want somebody to come online and talk badly about you, then don't do the things that they're talking about. And it took me a really long time to even want to do this video purely because it's a lot, but also because of the threats that I have received if I do this video. The person I'm talking about was someone who wanted to be a very big person online. They did have a decent sized community through streaming. And like, I was like, you know, I didn't want to like stir the pot. I didn't want to have like a group of people coming over to me and having a go at me because I've exposed someone for doing terrible stuff. But I guess what helped me as well was that I have spoke to multiple girls that have been involved with this person, and all of them have had some pretty similar stories to what I've spoke about. One of them I'm very good friends with now, and and it really helps to actually hear that you're not the only person that this person's done stuff to. But having said that, it's a really sad reality, and something I've struggled with is to look and think this person's going to continue hurting women for however long. It's not going to stop until he realizes he's done something wrong. And I truly don't believe that he ever will realize that he did a lot of terrible stuff to me. And I guess it gets to a point where I have to take matters into my own hands and deal with things how I want to deal with them, process things and just move on from it, because some people will never face the repercussions, and it sucks, but that's where you believe in karma and you hope that it will come around. yeah, I've been really scared to talk about this online, and it feels like a big relief that if I post this anyway, because this person turned up to my door with his father and threatened to sue me if I spoke about it. And I don't doubt them. I don't doubt that that's true. They have money, a lot of money. I don't. So we'll see, shall we? We'll see. Yeah. I just want to end by saying, if you are someone who's sat in a relationship and you're sat there and you're thinking like, I can't go my life without this person, I can't be happy without this person, I need to be around this person, like I can't breathe when they're not around me, I'm anxious if they think they're going to leave me, but they're treating you like dirt, they're treating you like the scum of, like worse than the scum of the earth, and you're feeling shit more than you're feeling good, or they've laid a finger on you, or they call you names, or they raise your voice at you, or they don't care when you're upset. If they're doing any of these things and you know deep in your heart watching this that the relationship is not going to work, but you're just waiting it out, you need to get out of there. You need to leave, because it will not get better. I can sit there and say they might change. They won't change. They will never, ever, ever change. They may take a break from acting as terrible, but as soon as they're comfortable, they will start mistreating you again. And sometimes, and it's going to be controversial, but sometimes you have to take matters into your own hands and decide for yourself that this isn't going to happen to me anymore and I'm done. And it's hard. It is so hard. I understand that men and women will understand across the board that leaving a relationship that you think you are so in love with is crazy. Trauma bonding is insane, and it is the strongest force of emotion I think I've ever experienced. It's like a stronger feeling of love, because it is not love. It's being comfortable. It's feeling trapped within that relationship because you lose everything outside of your relationship. You will be better. You will learn from some of your own, like, you will learn your own strengths. You will learn your own weaknesses. You will learn what you do and you don't want in a relationship. I left this relationship truly believing I will never be in a relationship again because I can't trust anybody. And I met the best person in like my entire life months later. And I didn't plan on being with my current boyfriend. I didn't plan on being in a relationship. I can't trust anybody after everything that happened in that relationship. And he is I can't even ask for somebody better. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, I know if you're being abused in a relationship, you think you can't get better. You think that you won't be able to go without them. But let me just say, like, it will be the best thing you ever do if you get out of it. And I know it's not easy. And I can't even sit here and dispense loads of advice for you, because look how long it took me. But you will get there, and I can only help that by sharing this and maybe drawing to light some really messed up things that should not be normal. You guys can either get the courage to leave or get the courage to even just think about it, or just maybe realize like what you're going through is really not okay, and like to talk about it, you know? It's hard to talk about stuff. I feel like I avoid talking about it a lot because I feel like I'm bothering people talking about it. I'm really fortunate that my current boyfriend lets me talk about how like it's affected me without seeing it as like you're not moving on, you can't get over it, because it's an attitude that loads of people take, is that if you're talking about your abuse, like you're still not over it. Just don't even bother listening to those type of people. They're just lost in the world. I'm gonna link some stuff below that may help. All I want to do, I guess, with this video is just help as many people as I can. And I know it seems maybe like I think I'm living in this crazy utopia where like this is going to do good. Maybe it won't, but at least I've also got something from it by being able to talk about stuff that I went through. And I also just want to add, the stuff that I listed today was probably some of the worst stuff that I had been through, but it was worse than like I can put into words. It was over a span of 2 years, and to put it politely, I don't think I went 2 days without being in tears and having a panic attack because of something like really messed up that happened in our relationship. And obviously I could sit here and if I can talk about that forever, but I can't, because I don't need to go into the ins and outs. I just need to tell you guys, I guess, the worst part so that you guys know that some stuff in relationships is really messed up and should not be happening. But yeah, it's a bit of a different video. If you made it this far, thank you very much. It really does mean a lot to me, because as much as I'm not a parasocial person when it comes to my relationships with you guys, it is nice to know that I can come online, say how I feel about something, and get either some support or criticism. And yeah, it's just nice to have that like backing, especially considering when I first began YouTube, I think I've said this before, but I began the day after that breakup, and it's literally been like my outlet since day one. And I think that's why doing this video means so much to me. So thank you very much for watching. I don't know if this will even get posted because I am terrified, and I will see you guys soon.